1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, hello everybody, and thank you a lot for being here. My name is Stanislav Šimek. I'm a lawyer based here in Prague, and blockchain is my main area of focus and interest and expertise. And next to my legal practice, I'm also running a blockchain advisory business in a company called Romy, where we provide complex services to blockchain projects. In this talk, I would like to talk about what regulation actually apply on DeFi. I believe this is a hot topic now, with the SEC being frenzy. Do the regulation actually apply on DeFi? Then we will see what's going to be the future of the regulation of DeFi, and then we will find some conclusions based on what's going to be said. So DeFi is increasing in popularity constantly over the period of time. We can see it in this chart. Is the share of the DEXs on the spot trading volume. So now it's about 15% of the overall trading volume share. And now it's going to be much higher because since SEC sued Binance and Coinbase, the trading volume index is actually skyrocketed, and now it's like 50x. So it's very interesting. And what are the reasons why people use DeFi or DEXs? Well, is it mainly to trade low caps, right? To make millions on Pepes, to lose millions or miladies? Another reason is anonymity, because now it's being harder and harder to find a centralized exchange, a solid centralized exchange that you don't have to comply with KYC. And then it's bankruptcies. I think many people learned their lessons during 2022, and unfortunately it's probably not over yet, because FTX and Celsius will most likely claw back their users, which means that the people who withdraw their crypto in the 3 months before the bankruptcy can be clawed back, and they will have to return the crypto back to the bankruptcy estate. So like in using centralized providers, there's a huge uncertainty. If you do one swap on a centralized exchange and then you take your crypto back, you don't know if in the 3 months, you have to wait for the 3 months and to see whether the provider doesn't go bankrupt, and to see whether you will not have to be forced to return the crypto back. And this trend is most likely to continue because the centralized providers will be, and the centralized exchanges will have stricter rules for admitting coins to trade. Now we can see that the US Binance stopped trading more than 100 pairs after the SEC lawsuit. Decentralized providers will also probably ban users from some states where it's going to be strict regulation, because they will not be able to comply, because it's going to be too harsh. And obviously anonymity, because soon, especially in Europe, there's going to be Trevor rule implemented, which means that the centralized exchanges will send all the information they have about you straight to the state authorities. So we can see that most likely DeFi will grow in the future. And as it will grow, the stricter the regulation must be. What's the current regulatory landscape? So, usually financial institutions, exchanges, and crypto providers, service providers need to comply, need to operate under a license, need to comply with AML's law and consumer laws. DeFi and decentralized protocols usually argue that they don't have to comply with this regulation, mainly on the 2 grounds. First of them is that they are decentralized, that there are hundreds of people deciding about the future of the project, so there is nobody who could force the protocol to do something the authorities want to, and that there is no legal entity that could be regulated or licensed, because the users interact directly with the protocol, and there is no classical relationship service provider and the client. So, what does the SEC and the US regulators say about it? They don't agree. They think that the automation of certain functions through smart contracts doesn't have any effect on the legal obligations, and decentralization is the same. So it means that whatever the project, however is it decentralized, fully decentralized, you still need to comply with all the regulation as the centralized providers. Moreover, the regulators kinda agree that practically all DeFi projects need to implement KYC, implement AML laws and do KYC to its clients, which almost no DeFi project does for now. It's the theory. And what's the reality? Well, SEC during its history conducted 118 crypto-related enforcement actions, but only 2 of them aimed DeFi. The CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, focus now more on crypto, with over 20% of all their enforcement actions being related to crypto, but only, again, 2 of them during their history aim on DeFi. So there are only 4 enforcement actions so far. So even though they are saying that DeFi have to comply, they are not really enforcing it. However, Gary Gensler, the protector, he says that actually every DEX should comply with the security laws. Therefore, there is a big chance that after he's done with the centralized exchanges, he goes after DEXs. So if we make a summary of the US regulatory landscape, DeFi needs to comply with everything as the centralized providers, but still we don't enforce it that much. How is it in the EU? Well, the EU has a different stance. Rather than saying, DeFi needs to comply with everything, they are admitting that there are some regulatory, that it's unclear who should actually comply with the regulation, whether it should be the DAO, the interface, the website, the provider of it, or the company that develops the protocol. So they choose the way of implementing new laws that should make it clear. Recently, the European Union approved MiCA, which will become effective in 1.5 years in all the European Union. And what does MiCA, the regulation that was supposed to make everything clear, says about DeFi? It says that where crypto asset services are provided in a fully decentralized manner without any intermediary, they shouldn't fall within the scope of MiCA. So this MiCA made it clear, not at all. Because we have no idea, there is no definition in the regulation of fully decentralization, and what does intermediary mean? So the EU members, the EU Parliament members say that now the authorities need to come up with guidelines and tell us what does it actually mean. So for now, we have no idea in what scope MiCA applies to DeFi and if what doesn't. If the MiCA was about to apply on DeFi, then all the projects, the DeFi projects, will need to operate under license and meet a lot of obligations, like experience as trustworthy personnel, meet capital obligations, like risk management obligations, AML obligations, and it would be very burdensome for the DeFi projects. So it is how it is now. What about the future? Well, the SEC made clear that they really want to go after DEXs and DeFi, because they proposed this April to amend the Exchange Act, the definition of exchanges, that it was clear that DEXs need to comply with securities laws. Then, from this April, we have US Treasury report about the crypto assets, saying that, yes, DeFi need to comply with all the rules, and we should raise awareness about this one. And then also they suggest more tools like digital identity. So they want a digital wallet to be connected to an identity of a person, and then the smart contracts don't have to comply with KYC, the AML laws. Then they suggest that there should be also a control on a smart contract level, that because the smart contract will see who is the user, and based on how experienced the user is, he will allow him, the protocol will allow him to use leverage to trade certain coins. And also the report wants the US government to engage with developers to create AML tools for DeFi. How is it in Europe? So, as I said at the beginning, the approach of Europe was quite reasonable, but as soon as the MiCA was approved, the European Parliament assigned a committee to assess the regulatory challenges that stayed after MiCA, and they deal with DeFi a lot, and unfortunately, their findings and suggestions are very harsh for DeFi, and practically they are also saying that DeFi should comply with everything as the normal centralized providers. So for example, they suggest that DAOs should have an entity status for licensing purposes, regardless of whether they are incorporated or not. So it means that if a DAO operates a protocol, it will need to get a license to be able to do that. And also the DAOs should have a legal representative who will be like a connection between the authorities and the DAOs. Also, the entities and people developing the protocol and the intermediary providing the website should be registered too. Then there should be bankruptcy rules about what happens when the protocol fails, when there is a hack, like with Terra Luna, for example. It also suggests that all crypto should be considered a security unless unless they apply for an exception. That also suggests that should be created an euro wallet, which should actually pave a way for CBDC. There are like many interesting features suggested. For example, that there should be a metrics that will tell you how much energy consumptions, how much your coins make in energy consumption, how bad it is for the environment, and then the bankruptcy administrators should be able to seize all your crypto when you go bankrupt. And the committee also suggests to implement Trevor rule, which means that when you do a swap on Uniswap, the Uniswap will have to send the information to the state authorities. So we can see that the future will most likely be that all the DeFi will be regulated in a way as the centralized providers are. And everybody should prepare for that. It's just, the problem is that the laws and the guidelines take time, and they need to get resources for enforcement, which take time. However, this is the reality. Of course, like the crypto community is very creative, so they will come up with new ideas how to circumvent it. But the trend is clear: the regulation is going to increase and increase, the same way as the popularity of DeFi is increasing. Of course, you can try to be anonymous, and we can see it now that many projects now launch their projects anonymously. And it can work for some time because to reach out anonymous people and projects is much harder for the authorities, but it's going to be more and more difficult in the future with the new regulations coming as Trevor rules and with softwares like Chainalysis being better and better. And so in the future, there's probably going to be a DeFi completely regulated, and next to it, there's going to be something similar to dark web, where like anonymous projects and people without regulation will operate, it's not going to be accessible for general public. The same way, for example, as it is with the Tornado Cash, that you can still connect to the smart contract, but there is no website where normal people can interact with it easily. From Mika and some of the reports, we can see that truly decentralized projects can be regulated. Like the regulation can be less strict. However, we still have no idea what true decentralization means. And to be honest, as we see, for example, on the case of Arbitrum, where the governance, the token holders voted in a way, and the developers and founders did something completely opposite. There are not that many truly decentralized projects for now. So to conclude, I just want this talk to be food for thought, not some legal advice. This is where we are most likely heading. And yeah, I bet that there's going to be many questions. And we are short of time, I think. So you can reach me out whenever you want, and wherever you want. I will be here for the 2 days. So thank you.